So electricity is a very unusual asset class in many ways. It has a lot of features which make it very attractive to investors. Particularly, it's obviously very central to any economy of whichever country you're investing in. And as a result, it tends to be highly regulated. That's both a blessing to the investor if the regulation is done well, because the regulatory underpinning can protect the cash flows and the stability of those cash flows. Conversely, of course, it can also be a bit of a curse in that sudden or unpredictable changes to regulation can actually bring out very negative consequences for the investment. Another key feature for an electricity sector investment is that the sums of money involved are typically very, very large. This allows investors to deploy a lot of capital quite efficiently for the long term, which for many investors is a very, very attractive feature of the sector. The energy sector sees a very, very broad range of different types of investor, both debt and equity. And one of the best ways to assess them is by their tolerance for risk. If you think of a spectrum of risk tolerance, at one end of that spectrum you should have debt providers, banks typically, but other providers as well. The best case for them is that they get their money back on time. Anything else is worse and means that they're taking a loss. So that characterizes a very conservative, cautious approach to the investment process. On the other end of the spectrum, you have equity investors who are paid to accept a greater level of risk. They benefit from upside in the project, so that if the project outperforms, they will do better. So they have a much more risk-tolerant approach. But even within the category of equity, there is a huge diversity of investors. Typically, you might see pension fund type investors who are paid fundamentally to protect the money that they're looking after for their policyholders. That means that they need to take a long-term approach and they need to be quite cautious to protect the return and the safety of that capital. Further down the risk spectrum, you will see more aggressive investors who are seeking higher yields and therefore by definition will accept a higher level of risk and volatility on their investment.